Hello, everyone. This is Jared Pixley from Pixley for President again. So recently, someone sent me a message on social media asking me what I would do first if elected. And I thought that question would make a very good video, especially since I don't know what else I would talk about this week. Nothing's come to mind. Um, there is a lot to talk about, but nothing standing out more than anything else. So, in my book, Pixley for President, I have a chapter towards the end, or actually, it's an appendix. And it's about my initial executive orders. Um, so, just so you know, an executive order is not a law. It does not go through Congress. It is just an order to the executive agencies from the president. I do have several laws that I would want to get passed, but they would require negotiating with Congress to even get them on the floor to be voted on. So the chapter in my book on executive orders is stuff that I would do on day one. So, and as an aside, in my recent town hall, and there is a video of that that I recorded, a person did ask me about executive orders, and I said I would leave executive orders how they are. I think they are not a problem. I think some of the people using them have used them wrong, and that is the problem. Because executive orders are not laws, they are just instructions to the executive branch of the government. They cannot supersede laws. They're mostly used as instructions on how to interpret the law. Um, so, executive order number one, I would end all tariffs imposed by Trump. These tariffs were not passed by Congress, so I don't need Congress to end this. And by ending these tariffs, it would bring prices down, it would bring back free trade, and that would both of those would help our economy. Second, federal law enforcement officers cannot wear masks while performing their duties. This would mean no more masked ICE Gestapo. This order would also require them to wear identifying clothing, such as badges and name tags, so that we would know who they are. And it would discourage the use of unmarked vehicles. So no more black SUVs crashing into people on the road and armed thugs pouring out. You know, as a tangent, I would also order ICE to fire anyone that had failed the background check, failed their physical test, or failed the written exam. Between the mask firings, no longer being allowed to wear face masks, and anyone involved in the murder in the streets being turned over to the DOJ for prosecution, I think that would get rid of pretty much all of the bad apples in ICE. Said, I'm collecting the names of the people involved in Minneapolis as well as other incidents, and if elected, I would turn the list over to the DOJ, have them take them to a grand jury, and see how many people we can throw in prison. Number three, I would end the use of for-profit prisons. So the United States spends over $300 million a year on for-profit prisons. A lot of that money just goes into the CEOs' wallets. Some of those prisons are not even up to code. Last year in New Jersey, one for-profit prison that was being used was so cheaply made, the prisoners physically pushed the wall off of the frame and walked out. You know, if we're going to use prisons, I think we should use our own. That money we're spending, for the profits, we can just use that on construction, staff them ourselves, create more jobs, and make sure that the prisons are actually up to code. Let's see. Executive Order number 4, titled Returning History to the Smithsonian. This order would return Trump to the exhibit of presidents that were impeached. When Trump took office, he ordered the Smithsonian to remove himself from that exhibit, even though he was impeached twice. It would also instruct the Smithsonian to go back to teaching real history, no matter who it makes look bad. Us white men, and I guess I'm including myself because I'm a white man, we've made mistakes in the past. We've done some bad things. We've started many wars. We've murdered. We've stolen. We stole land from the Indians. We stole Africans from Africa. We need to accept we've done wrong, and we need to learn from it. We need to look back and say, oh, that was wrong. Let me do better in the future. And in this order that I wrote, I actually quoted the Smithsonian itself in the instructions. I say, I want the Smithsonian to ensure that its work is, quote, grounded in a deep commitment to scholarly excellence, rigorous research, and the accurate, factual presentation of history. And I want them to remain, quote, free from political or partisan influences. My next executive order is to unleash American energy. This order would restore all funding and grants for electric vehicles that Trump had ended, and I cite a number of his executive orders that are rescinded in this. I would also investigate the impact and the need of any drilling and or mining on federal lands and waterways, and call for an end to any that are found to be bad or unnecessary. And I realize that, once I'm actually in office or close, once I've won the election and I'm looking at taking office, I would actually have someone write in all the legalese to define what bad and unnecessary is. But I was just trying to get some ideas and put the common sense in. Executive Order number 6 would reinforce the 14th Amendment and recognize anyone born in the United States as an American citizen, and affirm that everyone in this country, both legally and illegally, is afforded due process and the rule of law. This would end Trump's Executive Order number 14,160. Number 7 states that anyone can serve in the military if they can meet the military's entry requirements. There is no discrimination based on gender, sexual preference, sexual identity, race, or religion. If you identify as a squirrel and can still run a 7-minute mile and do however many push-ups, good luck, soldier. Number 8, the Gulf of Mexico. Guess what? That's its name. The U.S. does not have any official authority over the naming of international bodies of water. That power actually belongs to the International Hydrographic Association. All government documentation and maps will go back to using its real name. And finally, number 9, the Department of Defense. I am not a warmonger. I do not want to be a warmonger. I don't need a Department of War. However, as a leader of a country, I'm concerned about our defense. So I want a Department of Defense. We'll go back to using all the old napkins, the old nameplates, the old letterheads. Now, I had hoped to come up with 10 because I like round numbers. But these 9s are the only ones I've been able to think of so far. As I've watched the news, I'm sure others will come to me over the next 3 years. And hopefully I'll be able to add a 10th one before then. But I hope that answers the question that no one here on YouTube actually asked me, but this is where I'm posting the answer. I did reply to the comment on my social media about what I would do, but Now I have a 10-minute video about it. Thank you very much for coming this week. Please like, subscribe, share the channel. Go on Amazon, get my book if you don't have it already. Follow me on my social medias. Sign up for my newsletter. I hope this helps people better understand what I want as president, what I want to do as president, my policies. And come back next week for another video. Have a good day.